If you're an artist, I'm sure you've gone through somewhat of an identity crisis because you know how hard it is just to block out the noise and handle the weight of expectation from others. I certainly have. Because often young artists are told to niche down, stick to one thing, and you can't do anything else. But like me, I don't think you're going to be just interested in one thing. The problem is, if you want to try different genres, different styles, you often run the risk of being criticized and isolated by your peers, and you're told that you're not a true artist in the traditional sense. That feeling that you're somehow not enough, or you're doing too much, or just wrong for wanting more than one thing is exhausting. And that's what we are going to talk about in today's episode with my friend Asha Marinella, who is something of a maverick. For me, she's the ultimate modern day artist. She's an awesome dancer at heart. Please go check out her routines on Instagram after you've listened to this episode. But she also sings, plays guitar, and loves to draw. But the thing that is most impressive about her for me is that she runs a business and runs a studio in the Philippines that gives young artists a chance to not only pursue their dreams, but support their mental health. We also talked about how important her relationships with family and friends are for her mental health, her struggles with burnout, and her love for the K pop boy band BTS. Shout out to any BTS fans listening today. So, for anyone who's struggled with the weight of expectation and external pressure, I believe you're going to find a lot of comfort in Ash's story today. Hey everyone, it's Brian here. I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the Mental Musician Podcast. Let's get on with today's episode. I've already introduced to you. I've already introduced you to the audience, our 4 million fans. I'll probably introduce you in a moment, but maybe before we get onto the main pod, um,
Go.
I might ask. So what songs or albums really sits in your memory that if you if your Spotify died and you were given your CD player or record label and you only had
Mm.
a few albums, maybe 2 or 3 albums that you could only listen to for the rest of your life. You
Mhm.
know, Y2K's happened, technology's down, CD player's the only thing that you have, and you have 3 albums, 3
Oh
songs
my
that you can
god.
only listen to, and because they mean so much to you.
3 songs or
Oh,
albums?
the
What
if
is
you
it?
can think of 3 songs, then sure, but if you
Okay.
can't because you love this artist and you can only
Yeah.
say you have to listen to the whole album, then it's a CD, so why not? Whole album.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Could be album, could be a single. Okay. Man, actually, this question already crossed my mind a few weeks ago because lately I've been getting familiar with like vinyl and people collecting vinyl.
Yeah.
But I've never actually sat to think about it. So I think the first thing that came to mind was actually BTS Black Swan. Um, Specific song. Going back to K-pop, but yeah, I think that just really was the song that um really shifted my direction as a person, as an artist. It just really resonated with me. I felt the power of music and the
Mm.
how music heals with that song. So that's one. Another is um I think this is also just because of recency. Maybe this is just because just because I've been listening to it recently. But the soundtrack of the film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. But
Ah,
I especially love the song Stay Alive by Jose Gonzalez. It's my all-time favorite song.
Stay down.
It's my like yeah, one of my all-time favorite songs. I think with that film just really impacted me also, and that song always reminds me of that film.
Mm.
Um, another is man, the man, I just have one more left. This is so hard. Why would you put me in this situation, Brian?
Oh,
I'm
I
kidding.
I ask the hard questions, next thing is
Yeah.
gonna be
Oh,
your top 3 family members. Uh,
what? Oh
that's
no.
your whole family's gonna listen to this. No, like,
No.
remember, this is all recorded, so this is,
This is
this
it's
is
on record.
I'm gonna
Oh
hold this
no.
in the law of court. Jeez.
I'm gonna get canceled. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, okay, third, I think, gosh, um, I'm so torn between either Folklore or Evermore by Taylor Swift. Just the whole album.
Oh,
Um, because on Folklore, the standout song for me was Exile. On Evermore, that was Tolerated.
mm.
Um, I think, man, now that I think about it, the songs that really resonate with me are the ones that really make me cry, are the ones that found me in my desperate moments. And I don't know what that says about me, but whatever. You know, it's gotten me through life. Those
Wow,
songs
what a
slash album.
crybaby. Um,
I know, yeah,
no,
sorry,
no,
that's
that's
well, that's just me.
no, hopefully for anyone who's actually hopefully anyone who's actually listened to my podcast, and we're still early on, so I thank you to the 3 people who have listened to my podcast up until today's episode. You know that we know the humor. Any new listeners, this is not how I treat my guests. We're actually friends. We're best friends. I've known them for all my life, 2 years, and, it's all good fun, but no, the music has that effect on people, and it's so important, and it can be your best friend in at times, as you said, Asha, where life just you feel like you can't express how you're feeling with words, whether you're listening to it or creating music, I have for me, it's a little bit I say a little bit easier to narrow it down to 3 albums because I can pinpoint specific moments where these 3 albums impacted my life. The first one is,
Mm,
um, Eva Cassidy's album Songbird. I don't know if have you heard of Eva Cassidy?
uh-huh. No, not yet. I'll
Oh,
definitely
oh,
listen to
do
that.
yourself a favor, please,
Yes, I
please.
shall.
Eva Cassidy, she's someone who to me, not many people will know her, unless if you're really maybe singers who have been singing their whole life might know
Mm.
her, but she has, to me, the most angelic voice I've ever heard on anyone, male or female, and she predominantly did her own covers of well-known songs. Her version of "Time After Time," I thought was to me is so much better than the original one, and I don't know if that's controversial or not. Her version of Fields of Gold, and the reason why they're so different is because they're so to me, I think they're better is because they're so different. Like a lot of covers, you kind of listen to and you go, "That's a nice cover," but you can tell it's pretty much the same as the original. But I thought listening to songs like Fields of Gold, her version of
Mm,
Songbird. She did a lot. She did covers and her own arrangements. That's a true arrangement of a song. I thought
mm,
those were the original songs. I thought her version of Time After Time was original. And when I went traveling at the start of 2017, I had to
mhm,
find a way to overcome the anxiety of traveling on my own, and, this was after high school, so I was starting to struggle with depression and anxiety at the time.
mm.
There was stuff going on at home, and I just my best friend's dad said, "Go listen to Eva Cassidy," and he just said, "Listen to her." He didn't say why, he just said, "Listen to her." So I did, and, to this date, no album, no singers ever made me cry other than her. And,
Alright.
yeah, I won't say too much. You gotta listen to it, and I remember just constantly listening to her her album, and that helped me calm down. And that's Eva Cassidy. But I'm sure, like
And
it's so hard, like you said, Asha, to nail it down to 3 or 4 because every song, every album, there's so many songs and albums that attached to a moment in your life, happy,
yes,
sad, depressing, tragic, all
yes,
that stuff. So, um, yeah, yeah. So that's that's why music is so powerful. I know there's all
yeah,
these people can give very scientific and educational reasons as to why music is so impactful, but um, yeah, in moments like that, it's like the best friend that you never had. You know.
yeah, exactly. I feel like just to add to that, like the a word that came up for me while you were speaking was like how music is can be a lifeline, especially in certain periods. And I think there's some sort of there's a certain magic when like music arrives in your life specifically at a certain moment, like when you need it. And like I first I've been getting that feeling whenever like songs come to me and it's like, oh, I needed this in my life right now. But it's also like very common in like the BTS fandom. It's like BTS comes into your life when you need it. But
Yeah.
like yeah, like I've felt that feeling not just for BTS, even for songs like this the song from Walter Mitty. I watched that in 2013, 2014, 2013. Yeah. Just around the time when the film came out, and I just really loved the movie. Um, I think you should go watch it too. I would recommend it just to people who want to give their dreams a shot and just everything. But yeah, and yeah, lately also I've just been really so aside from the songs I've been exploring just to be able to expand my music taste, there are also some songs that come to me and it's like, wow, this is very interesting and it's leading me towards sometimes like not just as a lifeline, it's leading me towards, you know, different a new season of my life, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So it's like it's very interesting how music has been something that really just carries me through a lot of things, whether it's like, yeah, as you mentioned, like something tragic or, you know, it could be milestones as well. Like, actually, you know, now that I think about it, maybe that's why earlier we were talking about um the you know this was almost a podcast on nostalgic songs and everything. Maybe part of that is also because, you know, like just those songs remind us of childhood that's like a
Oh,
life that's
yeah.
much lighter and you know we're carrying less. So I don't know, maybe that's also part of it. But yeah, that's the beauty with beauty of music, I guess I'd say. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, interesting that you mentioned that because I've talked to some of the previous guests on the show and some friends as well who I'll ask them like, when was the last time you felt like completely free or like free of weights, pressure, expectation, and a lot of them will say when they were kids, you know, whether that's
right.
high school. I know nowadays high school is so different to 15 years ago or 20 years ago because high school kids now, there's much more academic pressure on them than there was,
Mm.
at least for me. But that's probably the last time where life felt like it was more enjoyable, you know, or more hopeful
Yeah.
where you could do things without consequence. You know, now it's being a little bit older. Like I still try to enjoy life, but I know that I could do one mistake and I start doubting myself, you know, or I have memories and experiences where I failed, and that fear of failure comes in. So, and
Yeah.
we can talk more about it as we go, and I know especially a lot of artists and creators can relate to it because every time you create something, you have to come face to face with your insecurities, and you you,
Mm.
you just have to be okay with. I say have to, like you're gonna make mistakes, and you kind of just keep going and accept that you're going to make mistakes, and um, you know, some people will say, "Oh, you look so perfect. You're so effortless," and deep down, that's not true. And
Yeah.
sometimes it, it's a, it's this push and pull where you want to do something that can just help you release and escape and make you just not think about all your worries. But at the same time, you have to you have to get through that before you get to the end. So, um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's a challenge, and it's not just an artist thing; it's life as well.
That's
So
true. True.
as sorry, my cat keeps jumping up and down. Hazel might be
Uh,
in the video.
a
If you
special
see,
guest.
yeah, if you see this tail and the butt of a cat, just know that I didn't find the cat. It's my cat. And
It's
maybe if Asha, has a couple of hers join
yeah.
in as well, maybe they can tell us about their insecurities, which is trying to find their tail, you know?
Yes.
So, but so Asha, like you're a dancer, and I know that's your first love or your first
Mhm.
artistic love. These days, I've seen on your Instagram you're starting to sing as well, playing a bit of guitar. You also run an open mic in your local area in the Philippines. You're drawing. You run some businesses and you do all sorts of things. So I'm jealous, and you're too talented. Even though I know talent is overrated, so you're overrated because talent is overrated. That's that's what it is.
Okay.
But I'd love
Uh,
to. I it's good to have a laugh before we get into the deep, dark, emotional stuff like family
yes,
trauma.
that's true.
No, we're not gonna talk about family trauma. That's another show. Plenty of
Yes.
shows available for that.
Maybe
Um,
we should have like Asian family trauma things.
yeah, yeah, that could be.
It would resonate with people, I think.
We'll have a big audience with that. A lot of millennial Asian kids who grew up with that, they'll be sending SMSs. We'll have an open phone line and get them a call in,
Yeah.
old
Very
school
good.
radio style. But I'd love to ask you, and we've had conversations privately before, and you've told me about your journey. But I'd love to hear about like how music, how art, how dancing came about in your life, and what it was like growing up with it. Because I know that um, being we just said this show's not about Asian trauma, but it's it's a tough balance because as much as I appreciate how much my parents did and grandparents they put in it, and I understand why they wanted us to study so hard. I understand that. I don't hold
Mm,
any grudges. I know some do, but I don't. At the same time, music, arts is something that I felt like that was who I am, or that's what I wanted to do professionally. And you're
mm.
doing it professionally now, and you've continued to do it. And I love watching your reels. So, growing up, how did how did that fit in your life, and how are you trying to balance it now?
Right. Yeah. Um, but firstly, I just want to say thank you for the hype. You make me sound like cooler than I actually am, and like I'm not struggling. But like you mentioned, we're gonna get into the dark, heavy stuff later. But
Yes,
for
yes, very
now,
dark.
to answer your question, yeah, actually, like growing up, my parents were very supportive with our extracurriculars in school because it was extracurriculars, and they wanted us to have like a more holistic education, not purely academics.
Mm,
So that was in high school. And then when I got into college, actually, originally I said, okay, I'm going to lock in, I'm going to be a doctor.
mm,
But no, I saw my college dance group. I enjoyed the workshops. I signed up for auditions and I just kept going until I realized, oh, I'm about to graduate. Okay, well, okay, I'm here anyway. I'll just finish the course because I didn't plan on studying where I ended up graduating. But I was there already, so I said, okay, you know what? I'll just finish what I started. I'm almost there, so I might as well. Didn't go on to be a doctor though, but sorry, mom, if you're watching. But we are here helping out people in different ways. So fast forward to now, I think yeah, over the past years, it's just ever since I graduated. Um, Dance slowly kind of became work, just because like my previous job at the time, there were struggles with it, so I wasn't getting compensated, but I was getting paid to teach dance, and so I just kind of ended up exploring like how can I get better here in this space, and what else can I do? So I started doing production, events, content, social media as well. And that's why I'm posting quite a lot, especially now. And how I balance it now actually is um, for some reason in my head before it was like I'm telling myself that I'm doing this professionally and like
Mm,
that's the goal. But now that I'm actually telling myself that I'm not doing this purely professionally, like I'm doing this because this is what I want to do and what I feel pulled or called to do. I feel like there's a greater sense of freedom when I just want to explore things like yeah, drawing or singing. Because I think before um, there was a time that I was really hiding so much of my personal insecurities behind the mask of dancing. So it's like I'm uncomfortable with who I am or like what I'm going through, my problems, that I would dance to escape it all. Which is, it's kind of good in on one hand because it's like helping your mental health. It's really physical. Endorphins, they make us happy, right? So yeah, it was good. But then I think um it got to the point that I couldn't clarify those boundaries, or like I couldn't clarify anymore like when I was doing it for work or when I'd be doing it for myself. So when
mm,
it got to the point that I wanted to release a lot of grief through dance but I couldn't, that's when I knew that okay, something's wrong. Like I have to change. And so the past years really have just been me actively trying to um reconnect with my inner child, my inner teen, and just like be okay with creating and not put too much pressure on it. Um, but still, for a time, I felt like I let go of the dream of pursuing this professionally.
mm,
But now I'm just kind of in that middle ground, I'd say, where I'm kind of figuring out, okay, I want to be able to do this full time, but I also know that I don't want to put my entire self worth on my art again, because I know if I do that, I would fall to pieces once more and my mental health will go down again. So yeah, I think really just finding that balance of, I love what I do, but also that's not the entirety of who I am. So that's where I'm at now actually. And since you mentioned drawing, I actually want to share uh, actually I hope it's here. But yeah, just yesterday I was with a friend and then we were just at my sister's house, but we ended up just making some drawings. So this is very crude. I am not like the next Picasso. Okay. This is as a disclaimer. But yeah, so we just played around with like watercolor pencils, like I don't even know. And then I just made these like star flower things. They're just cutesy, very like whimsical, very especially because I've been getting into junk journaling as well. Um, and yeah, I think in the past I would have been like, I'd make this. I wouldn't have had the courage to share this on our podcast with our 5 million followers. But yeah, this was just me just spending time with a friend,
mm,
actually, and like just talking. Um, and yeah, like I think that's where I'm at, really, just kind of allowing myself to flow through this season and trusting that okay, in the future, like all the big dreams I have for like other things, like film and things, I feel like they will fall into place when they will. For now, I just need to really root myself deeper into just the love for the process, I'd say.
mm,
Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
mm, mm. For anyone listening to the audio recording on Spotify and all the streamers, I'll just describe the picture that Asha just showed me. It's stick figures, and it was just a little
Yes,
beautiful
you can.
stick figures, little animals, No, it's
No, he's lying, guys. He's lying.
yeah,
He's making it
it's
up.
actually just coloring in, and she's crossed the
Yeah, just
lines.
coloring.
You know, it's a little coloring in book, little Peppa Pig coloring in book, and she's crossed the lines. Unfortunately, where it says blue, she's actually colored red. Um, and
Look at that. Because I'm a rebel.
yeah, no, they're anyone who's watched on video, they're yeah, they're it's very colorful stuff, and I say colorful because I feel like anyone who does, you know, just sort of scrapbook or journal drawing like that, they try to still make it perfect, and it can be very stale. Um, but I'm comforted. It's quite comforting to me that you hear that you're doing your best, or you're just not tying your self worth and your identity and value as a person to your art. And whilst I know that dance for you is a part of you and a big part of your childhood and even now, it's so important. And I've learned this only recently. It's so important to have things outside of your life, away from your profession, especially if your profession is something like being an artist. And I know athletes can feel this as well, where you tend to live in a bubble when you're an artist, where you see
Mm,
the world in beautiful colors, and you know it's this beautiful philosophical, spiritually thing. And the reality is life isn't. Life sucks. You know, the artists can
yeah.
live in a bubble where, and I get it, because you know I've lived it, where the reality of life, what's going on in the outside with, you know, the politics or climate, cost of living, real things. It's hard to face that every day, and whether it's art, sport, movies, film, everyone wants to find something to just tell them things will be okay. And but at the same time, it can be very suffocating, because it's like, here's the truth, and the more you try to run away from the truth, it eventually catches up with you. And um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you, Asha, I when I decided I'm going to be a professional musician, my first dream was to become a touring guitarist around the world. That dream fell over. So then I
Yeah.
decided to become a guitar teacher. It was always to me a job, and I tell myself I love this job. I want to be a professional. I want to be a professional music teacher, music school owner. But perhaps constantly telling myself that I want to be a professional meant that I never really had that confidence, or validated myself. Like I had to sort of prove
Mm,
that this is not this artistic phase. It's not just a fun thing. This is a serious thing. And that's
yeah.
maybe a societal thing where, and even in the music world where, you know, until you have that big hit or you make it, whatever making it
Yeah.
is, most people will say, "Oh, you know, it's cool that you're so talented and you're performing, but when are you going to get a real job?" And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, when it is a real job, they go, "Oh, that's great, you know, well done." And you wonder, "Hang on, that doesn't." I've been working at this for so long. It was a real job for a long time, and
Mhm.
um, you know, you're always trying to prove yourself to others and also yourself. So it, and
Yeah.
eventually you can drown in it, and that's what happened to me. And um, I I haven't been teaching for over a year and a half now, and I still play guitar every now and then, but I struggle to build a life away from music now. Like I had, you know, I've been with my girlfriend for 8 years, and I have a lot of close friends, a lot of, I call them my brothers. You know, and I love sport, but I never spent time with all those things for the best part of 8 years. You know, the last year and a half, I've had to, you know, tell myself, I have hobbies. I love sport. I love tennis, basketball. Now I like doing podcasts, you know. Hopefully that won't turn professional. You know, I'm waiting for a big sponsorship endorsement from Spotify.
Hey,
That's
Spotify.
what it
Come
is. Yeah.
on.
Even though Spotify, you know, with artists, they don't treat them well. This podcast is on Spotify. So, yeah, Spotify, hello. Give me that $3 million. That's just my fee, $3 million. Like, what are you paying Joe Rogan? $30 million. I just asked for three. I just asked for three. Not a lot, you know.
Just a good number, you know?
Yeah, but what you're telling me, it reminded me of one of my great music teachers in university. His name's James Greening. Maybe he'll listen to this, but to me, he was the first musician I'd ever met who was not only open and honest about his struggles with anxiety and depression. Every time he came to class, he'd open the door real loud. To paint a picture, I've told the story before on other podcasts, but any new listeners, he's got red, fiery orange hair, kind of like Mufasa, you know?
Wow.
He likes to wear
Glorious.
fanny pack, kind of a fanny pack that looks like he just picked it up from the flea market. And he wears very, very tight khaki shorts as well. Very tight, very tight.
Okay.
And also loafers. He likes his loafers, loafer shoes.
Interesting.
And he'd always barge in and goes, "Kids, I had the biggest panic attack this morning and I was so nervous about coming to class, but now that I see you, I feel so happy and I'm ready to we're gonna jam, we're gonna have a lot of fun." And a lot of my
That's
classmates would be like, "Hi, James." And for me, that was the first time I felt I've never seen anyone do that, just like go, "Hi, I had panic attack," you know? So I
yeah.
remember one afternoon, this was, I think, just after the second lockdown in Sydney. I
Mhm.
gave him a call and said, "Hey, James, I'm struggling a bit. Can I just give you a phone call or can we catch up and have a coffee?" And he said, "Yeah, no worries. Here's my phone number. Call me at 7 o'clock tonight." And I told him about how I was struggling and how, I'd been struggling with depression. I just couldn't, I was burning out. I was living on my own as well during COVID. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
struggling with the course as well. And he said, "Look, Brian, during this COVID lockdown, I'll tell you what I'm going to do." And I did this in the last lockdown in 2020. I put down my trumpet. And the reason why I did that is because I had to remind myself that one, I'm a granddad, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I love gardening. I love walking my dog, and I love painting. In fact, I'm
Yes.
gonna paint my granddaughter's, crib, tonight or something like that. Something like
Wow.
that, doing a nursery. And he said he used to feel so inferior to his colleagues, his fellow musicians. He
Yeah.
would said, "If I weren't friends with these motherfuckers," that's what he would say, like, he'd be, "They're cool motherfuckers," you know? "If I weren't friends with these motherfuckers who are some of the best jazz musicians in Australia and the world, I wouldn't have a job," you know? But I think the reason why, because I still have a job and because I feel like I'm so lucky to have this job and I love it so much, is because my life outside of music is pretty good. And what helped me get through the first lockdown and what's gonna help me get through the second lockdown and periods of anxiety and depression is the fact that I have a life. I have hobbies I love, and I love spending time with my family, and,
Yeah.
that I mean, it still took me 4 years to actually start, taking on his advice, but
Mm.
that's what I'm trying to do now, and, I try to encourage a lot of young artists and a lot of my students to have hobbies outside of not just their music, but school. I know it's very hard now because, particularly here in Australia, a lot more kids now they're tutoring every single day. And they do 55 different extracurricular activities, all for academic purposes. You know,
Right.
so it's such an important thing, and you have to have that. Balance is such a cliche thing, but you have to have a different part of your life too. So that way, when one thing doesn't quite work out, you have something else that gives you
Yeah.
maybe a bit of satisfaction, maybe comfort. And so you don't burn out doing one thing. And I know burnout is something that you've struggled with too, Asha. And is it, if it's okay, can you share when was the first time that you noticed, with dance and your work, yeah, burnout starting to become an issue and you had to take a step back,
Mhm.
take a rest?
The first time specifically with dance, or like just when I noticed it in
Or
general?
or anything, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Any
have to be because of dance or,
right.
maybe it was because of your job, but I do like, you know, we've talked
Right.
about this privately, but, for the listeners, yeah, if you
Uh-huh.
can share again or what you remember.
Oh, yeah, sure. Um, so yeah, actually, I think the earliest I shortly after I graduated, yeah, when I started working in dance, or like when I was teaching dance, I'd find that when I'd get projects and there'd be a lot, it would be great because I'm booked, I'm busy, and I have income, which is what I was really needed at the time, right? Um, but yeah, it's like things would happen, and like after a long period of multiple projects, I would kind of burn out, and then I'd be low, and then I'd have no projects for a while. So it's always this up and down. Like I'm super booked or I'm not booked at all, and so it was just that constant um change. So I couldn't maintain it, and that's over the years I've started to realize, oh, there's something about this that's it's already a pattern and they have to break that pattern that um like I can, if I want to have a long and sustainable career and an abundant career, abundant, like, not just financially but also, physically, emotionally, if I wanted to feel all of that, I needed to change the way I do it so that I could have a career that I could actually sustain and that I could have the capacity to hold. But yeah, I think the moment that it was really that I really decided, okay, I think I really need to take different steps um, from in the way I approach dance was actually during the lockdowns. I think 2021, because 2020, right before the lockdowns happened, I was supposed to be fully booked all the way until September 2020. And I was so happy. I was fulfilling my dream to be a freelance arts manager, because I really like the mix of arts and like just management, putting things together, making things happen. But then, yeah, so as we know, COVID happened, events were canceled, postponed, and then I was lucky enough to still have a team that I was teaching, but as the months went by I could feel that it was draining me, and like it felt like I needed to put on a performance just to be able to teach, and that already felt like it was taking up too much of my energy, taking up too much of myself, until eventually when the school year ended, yeah, or like, yeah, towards the end of the school year, I think that's when I decided that okay, I can't continue on anymore. And so I really took a step back from teaching. I took a step back from dance. Like, although occasionally when projects would come, because I needed money, just being real. Like I felt that okay, I would take a few dance projects, but then again, it was never something that I could really maintain.
Hmm.
And so um yeah, I think it's just been over the past year that I was really getting more comfortable. When I finally moved back home, that was when I started to get really more comfortable with like, okay, I think I really am being pushed towards something else and I have to surrender and just see what happens after this. But yeah, like it was really the lockdowns. I think um it wasn't like time a big event that really was the point that when I got burnt out.
Hmm.
But it was really like a gradual realization that, oh, I'm not able to sustain this. And
Hmm.
so yeah, that's when.
I appreciate you sharing that, Ash, and I know it wouldn't have been easy to recall that feeling, but the importance of talking about is this is something that a lot of artists, musicians, dancers, filmmakers, they go through because it's it's so unsustainable. It's one of the most unsustainable careers that you can choose, which is weird. So why would you want to become a musician, an artist? That's just dumb. Seriously. Anyone who this is a new advice I want to give to young artists. When they say, "What should I do to become big?" and what can I do for my career? I'd say, don't. Uh, that's what AI and ChatGPT is good now. Whenever I just type in, what is the success rate, or what do you have to do to become a successful artist in 2026, says things like, one, you got to you got to market yourself on social media. You got to be your own admin, your manager, finances. You do weddings, open mics, pubs, make YouTube videos. You can release music. I was like, yeah, that's not much. That's not too much. And also, how much on returns can you get from opening your own dance studio or music school, or even touring? The likelihood is like breaking even is the likelihood, and only the 0.00075% actually make money. It's like, oh, that's good. Okay. So
Yeah.
you ask for the recommendation, and it says objectively, no, you shouldn't. It's like, cool, sweet. So
I would actually. Oh, sorry. Let me know if you're done.
no,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
that's half joke and half serious. No, it's a
Okay. I would actually say, I think, well, I feel like now I'm able to say it because I have a clear vision for where I want to
mm,
head.
mm.
I feel like I would have said the same thing if it was like a year and a half ago. I'd be like, no, I really regret pursuing this. Why did I fight my parents and say, I want to pursue this so that I don't regret it? Here I am regretting it and wishing that I listened to them. But I feel like now is where I'm at. That because now my relationship with dance is actually more of um so I'm not pursuing to be a dance teacher. I'm not pursuing to be a touring dancer. Actually something I've been wanting to explore more is actually dance visuals, which is I think slowly leading me to film.
Mm,
And the more that I say it out loud, like a few nights ago, I got to watch my brother perform
mm.
on stage because he took a camp, and then I got to reconnect with some dance friends. And so when they asked me, oh, how I was doing or what I was up to, I think in the past I would kind of have felt insecure with my answers, like, oh, I'm not dancing right now. But that night, I actually found myself saying that, oh, I think like I'm actually pursuing dance visuals now. Like it's something I want to explore. So actually, I think something that maybe a lot of artists need more, or a lot of people who want to pursue, being professionals or aspiring artists. I think we need to have a better understanding, or have a better way to understand how we can find alignment with what we want, with who we are, the types of people that we are, and what careers can be here in the industry. Because, for example, like somebody who, would prefer to stay home but would want to keep making music would not thrive being somebody who makes gigs and goes touring everywhere. But maybe they would thrive doing producing beats at home,
Mm.
recording things at home, and maybe that's something they can like collaborate with virtually online. Because especially I've been seeing a lot on threads. I think there's this account, I just forgot the handle, but they're really big on promoting getting your music, um what do you call this, getting sync placements. So like when you get your music used for films, and it's like they say that it's much bigger pay, that's as compared to if you're like going around. um yeah, and then I think for me as well, when I realized that, oh, I don't like the process of teaching a dance, coming up with a dance and then teaching it and then doing the same thing weekly. I really love the process of making something and then refining it, because the refining part was the part I really enjoyed the most. It's like, for me, that's when it feels that the piece is really coming together and it's really coming alive,
Mm,
versus the messy part. And I know we need the messy part, but like, I guess for me, it's just when it was purely just those raw parts, and I have to keep doing that. It was a struggle. Um,
mm.
but I have encountered dance teachers who now, they're in places where they're happy to share, happy to teach. Um, I have had a few dance teachers also who, for the longest time, just because it was the norm, they were teaching like basics of hip hop, or popping, locking, like different genres, different styles. But actually, they really thrived in um, teaching. Like one of my coaches, his name is James Wong.
Uh,
We've both had teachers named James,
mm.
right?
Something
Yeah,
about James.
interesting. Yeah, I guess they're great teachers. But yeah, like, now he has this camp where he teaches where he teaches people, dancers who want to be able to teach, like, how do you structure a class, how do
Mm.
you, like, gauge if a student is ready, or like, how do you figure out what you want to teach. I think just those kinds of things, like, he's been able to find his niche, which I think not a lot of artists are able to do.
No, you make a very, very good point, Asha. And just going back to what you said about how, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, you would say, no, being an artist is a dumb decision. Um, I think, or I believe that education for young artists, young musicians, and this is what you're doing now with your work, uh, that's crucial. And people from our generation are a little bit more aware of it. And that's the good side of social media. That's the more positive and useful side of the internet. For all the negative stuff and the ranting and trolls on the internet and the perfection that Instagram artists make music look like to be and dance and all not, stuff like that. There are people who say, hey,
Mhm.
you don't have to be a touring musician, or touring artist. You can be, you can just stay at home and make your own music at home if you want to create your own beats. If you want to run a dance studio as a teacher, be that, and that's a real job. That's a real profession. And I know earlier I said that treating it like a job can be suffocating. On the other side of that, if you know that doing this, regardless of, how much you love it or not, if you
Mm.
treat it like a job, then it just gives you a little bit more of a realistic view on how to approach the steps that you take. And how good is it to say that, hey, this is a job, it pays my bills, provides for my family and my future, and I also love it, and that's why to this day, even though my career hasn't quite turned out the way I'd like it, I'm still grateful that I have skills that I learned from being a musician, and a lot of it's got nothing really to do with playing guitar. Um, so that education for the younger generation, and to know that, like you said, you don't have to be a performer. If you want to be a performer, go for it, and understand the stress that comes with it, and make sure that you know how to manage yourself when you're touring on the road or when you're performing on stage. But we've also got to validate being music teachers, dance teachers, art teachers. Something that
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of other music teachers about, and um, I think it's slowly changing, at least here in Australia, where music teachers, dance teachers, singing teachers, they're no longer called music or singing teachers. They're just considered teachers.
Mm.
Here you have teachers, and if you say I'm a teacher, people will answer, "Oh yeah, cool. What school?"
Mm.
If you say you're a music teacher, then they'll go, "Oh, you're a music teacher,"
Right.
and that tone changes. They're like, "Oh, you're just a music." It's kind of like when you say, "Oh, you're just a PE teacher," or "You're just an art teacher." Right, right. You're not a real teacher. But now it's slowly changing, where if
Mhm.
you say you're a music teacher, there's that respect that, you know music teachers need. Being a music teacher is just as tough as being an English teacher or math teacher or science teacher. In fact, you could argue that their job is a little bit tougher because most schools, most public schools, give less funding to the music classroom. So they have to kind of provide their own material and content and equipment themselves. So, anyone who's listening, if your dream is to be a teacher or you want to be the best producer you can be, or you want to be the best visual artist, you want to design logos and websites for musicians and dancers and bands, go for it. If you don't know what you want to do and you love
Mm.
music, you love art, any form of it, do everything. And this goes against the whole niche advice. And that's something that Eva Cassidy, I mentioned at the start of the show, that's what she did. She just sung and played songs that she loved. And part of the reason
Mhm.
why well, there were two reasons why she never quite had the success and isn't a name that a lot of people know. One is
Mhm.
because record labels didn't like the fact that she wanted to play all different
Right.
styles. They couldn't work out, are you a folk singer? Are you a jazz singer? Are you blues? Are you bluegrass? Are you country? And also because of
Mm.
that, she had a lot of anxiety because she was always worried about performing in front of bigger crowds. So she always stayed at small clubs where she knew, okay, I'm gonna have 50 to 100 people here who they're just part of I'm just gonna turn up and it's just an intimate show and hopefully everyone will enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
you know, niching down is important. I guess if you do that later in life, you have that experience and you have that experience as well. And, um, like, of course, I wish that no one
Yeah.
has to be severely burnt out to
Same,
get to
exactly.
that point, but I'm glad that I mean, we're around the same age, 18. So, there's still a lot of there's still a lot of time to try so many things, and, you know, I get the feeling, I know that there's that
I
art,
mean, yeah.
all forms of art is gonna be
Actually.
in your life for a long time, Asha, until you're 73 or 104. So,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're gonna be doing that for a long, long time for most of your life, then
Yeah.
why not try different things? It's like when people say travel, you're not just gonna travel to one country, you're gonna travel to many countries. So,
Yeah.
that's I hope that we see more education in that sense to
Yeah. Yeah.
encourage and to change that mindset
Yeah,
where,
exactly.
being an artist is all about performing,
Exactly.
and then the backup plan is to be a teacher. That's not a backup plan, like, if you wanna teach, that's
Yeah.
a passion,
Actually, I
that's
want
a real that's a
sorry.
genuine job.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to your point. I like that you said like you could niche down later in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like, if you want to get paid, if you're known for something specific, that's when you could like get higher rates, things like that. But yeah, like the later in life part is I think the key word there, because it's like you're not gonna know like what you could really again be able to sustain and hold capacity for until you actually try it. Like I mentioned earlier, my dream before was really um to do freelance arts management, because in my head that was the dream. Like I don't have a single, like just one client, I'm doing multiple projects at the same time. I'm able to use my I'm able to mix my love for art with my interest in like in production, in management and business, because literally that's how I found out about the whole field of arts management. um I Because in college, aside from dance, I was also part of another organization that was a leadership organization, and we learned a lot of like business principles, things like that. And so when I searched, I think this was around the time that the concept of ikigai was really going around, if you're familiar with it. Yeah, the like the intersection of your passion, vocation, profession, and
Mm.
I forgot the fourth one. But yeah, there's like it's a Japanese concept that kind of went around. And what I found in the middle of all of those for me actually was arts management. Like I liked arts, I liked business. I literally searched art and business career. I think that's how it started. Like literally just that. But when I actually lived it, that I had multiple clients at the same time and I was doing different productions. That's when I realized, oh, I don't like this setup. I think it makes me feel like I'm scattered or I can't keep track of too many things all at the same time, like from in different contexts. Because of course, like it would be different clients, they'd have different productions, different timelines and things like that. That's when I realized, oh, never mind. This is not my dream. But it took me actually experiencing that before I realized that, okay, I don't like it. So, yeah, which, that I closed that, not really closed, but I stepped away from that door and just actively said, okay, that's not going to be the main thing that I want to pursue. And then now we're just, continuing to figure it out. But yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now if I didn't experience that and really realize, okay, yeah, this isn't for me. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think there has to be more education about this. Actually, that's something I'm also really trying to build with Allied Arts. And right now, Allied Arts has kind of become um, my events platform for in-person events here
Mm,
in my city. But actually, how it started was I really just wanted to learn more about the different careers, like how I could mix different industries and, apply them, how I could mix different industries with the arts. Because it was really coming from a place and a time in my life when I was, like I mentioned, I wanted to be a doctor. I had the degree. If I just took additional units, I could have gone and taken a clinical psychology degree and a master's degree. But I was pursuing arts management as well. And then I actually one degree I considered, but ultimately didn't really pursue, was actually urban planning as well because I like, so it's kind of far too from like arts, although it could be in the field of like
mm,
design and human behavior and things like that. But yeah, it was just different, a different field. And I know in my head, like it made sense. I know that the arts are connected with this somehow.
mm,
I just didn't have the words for it. So I think that's just been something I've been consistently curious
mm,
about, how the different fields would mix with the arts. And also I worked briefly in as an insurance agent, and so at finance, was so overwhelmed because I had no idea, like with numbers. I felt that I was bad with numbers, but I learned that okay, it's just a skill that you grow into because as an adult, when we're working, we gotta figure out our numbers, things like that. But yeah, it was just me getting all those different experiences that really made me want to think, how can I mix this with the arts? Because I know that, like, I knew deep inside that the arts would be beneficial for across all industries, and at the same time so many different industries are involved in like making the arts happen. But yeah, I think this is finding out what resonates with you, what we have. I say this a lot lately because it's something I'm actively reflecting on, but like um there's something about what you have the capacity to hold, really, the career that you're able to hold. um and yeah, another career that came to mind actually, like if in dance studios, did you know that the flooring, actually there are companies that specialize in the flooring for dance studios, because it has to be like a good type of flooring for dance studios are actually like wood, where it's not concrete, so that the joints of dancers, when dancers jump or do different movements, uh it won't affect their joints, because if it's concrete, like just the force again with so there's factors of physics that come into play. And in high school, I briefly liked physics just because I don't know, I just it was interesting to me. And so just those things. And
Um,
in music, like I think technology, um, despite all the technical difficulties that we have experienced, but actually there are a lot of innovations with tech as well that really benefit music. Um, well, there are also that have been detrimental to music, like AI and everything. But I think it's again these technologies are evolving and we'll like figure it out. And as long as people have the good
mm,
intentions with it, I think it should be. I think generally, overall, on the macro level, I think it's helping us move towards a better direction. Um, but yeah, just all that. I think people need to like figure out, you know, your unique, like what makes you
mm.
nerd out, that kind of thing.
I'm going to answer you, Ash, in just a moment, but I just realized I just locked in
You
my
could
cat. So I'm going to
bye,
let her out.
Hazel.
To go back on what you were saying, Asha, this might be a different angle, but it just validates the artist, the musician, and music as a whole. I know a lot of people, the general public, will know that, oh, yeah, music's a beautiful thing. And, it's a big part of our lives, and we can listen to songs and it makes us feel things, it makes us reminds us of moments in our life. But it kind of just stops there with the general wider
Yeah.
society, kind of like sport. Again, I compare sport to
Yes.
music because people will watch sport, the World Cup, but they may not appreciate the work that goes behind the game or the song. And unfortunately, that is the way art works. 99%, if not 100% of the time, people only see the end result, whether it's the performance on stage, the recorded track, the short film, whatever it is. They don't realize the work behind it. And
Mhm.
even if you hear podcasts like this or documentaries, it only shows 1% of what goes on. And to know that, like you said, a dance studio, a good one, every single corner of that room
Yeah.
um, can affect the acoustics and the health, the physical health of a dancer. The same thing with a lot of guitarists, and pianists. You talk about how one thing I'm trying to challenge is, do you really need to practice 12 hours a day? Because as much as, yeah, you got to commit and you got to be dedicated to your craft and to be at the best you can and have success. You have to put in more hours. At the same time, if you're
Mm.
just putting hours because you think you should, that's going to lead to injuries. That's why so many piano players have elbow
Yes.
issues. That's
Yes.
why so many guitarists have shoulder issues and back issues if they're
Yeah.
constantly holding the guitar all day, and dancers, ACLs, toe injuries, stress fractures. I know that
Mm.
because one of my best friend's sister, I think she tore her ACL uh, dancing when she was 17 or 18. Like she absolutely cracked her
Mm.
knee to the point that she can't really dance. Like that killed her professional dance dreams. Um, so I know the severity of it, and that's something that needs to be appreciated a bit more. And young artists, of course, have your dream and have your passion and dream big. But also, if you know that you have to put in all this work to get there, then hopefully it doesn't discourage people, but
Yeah.
it gives them more understanding and makes you more well-rounded,
Mm.
probably a bit smarter as well. Or maybe not smarter, maybe that's not the right word, but more clever. So you know that if, for example, you rock up to a dance studio, I'll use something I can relate to, but if you rock up to let's say you
Yes.
you
Yes.
sign with a label or a studio, you understand the fine print that comes with the contract, or you look at the equipment and you realize, hang on, that monitor or that pedal or that floorboard or that panel there, that's not what I want. And if I'm going to pay
Mm.
$1,000 an hour to use this or $1,000 a month, whatever it is, I'm going to make sure that every detail is right there. And then, away from the business side, if you see one of your fellow dancers or fellow bandmates, they're starting to struggle, like you can see that their movements are slowing down or they're sweating a bit more, you can say, "Hey," instead of saying, "Hey, you need to push hard. You need to keep going. Toughen up." You say, "I think you got to rest. Yeah, come over here. What's going on?"
Yeah.
Maybe they're starting to get a bit sore, or there's a few concerns, or maybe mentally something they're struggling with, and you just say, "Hey, come over here and let's have a chat." So all that is so important to ensuring that we have young people not only want to start and decide and choose to become artists, but also stay in that profession, stay in that livelihood for as long as possible. So hopefully that's something we see
We're still
in our
18, right?
lifetime
We
at
we have
least.
like
I think
you have
got
time.
we both got plenty
Oh,
of
cool.
decades left,
I was thinking like
hopefully.
maybe a
Yeah.
cool number would be like
Yeah, yeah. So
777.
I
So
plan to live to 602. So
yeah.
yeah. Hopefully by then artists will actually be paid
Yeah.
something, you know. You can actually become a performer on a salary, a good salary. So, but now, before we wrap up, Asha, I just want to say thank you for now. Anyone who's listening, this is the first time that you've been on, but for us, this is the sixth, seventh, or 80th because we had a few technical issues. We're on different sides of the planet, and you'd think that internet connection, at least in Australia, would be good. No, it's not. We're like 40th in the world for internet connection
I feel
for
like the
such an
Philippines would be
advanced
even
country.
lower.
I just don't know how Australia's
Unfortunately.
internet connections are still so shit. But we made it work. I'd be surprised. I think you'd be very surprised to see how poor
Right.
Australia is. Like our range is so big. Like we have 5G all around the country, but the actual bandwidth and band speeds, every single day there's an outage somewhere. There's so
Like
I think artists will be paid a fair salary before Australia fixes their bandwidth and band speeds. There'll be, when the world moves to 8G, Australia will be going back to 3G. That's what will happen. So, but I want to say thank you so much for the everything you've shared and being so honest and vulnerable. It's not easy talking about all this stuff, whether you're a musician or not. But everything that you're saying is, I know a lot of artists for a long time have feel this way, but
mm,
they feel like if they open up about it, then they feel like they might be judged, and people will say, "Oh, you're not a real musician. How could you feel that way? You should feel lucky to be an artist." But that's the reality of life,
yeah.
and no job, no profession doesn't come with their struggles, and these struggles are real, and some of them are tougher than other professions, and
Yeah.
I know we're not really saving lives. Like, and at the end of the day, art and music is entertainment, but it's a very important form of entertainment for you, for the people listening. It's just as powerful as sport. So if people can understand that, then we'll have more and more artists, as I said, who will continue and choose to keep going and not quit. But also more artists
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
able to take care of themselves and learn to take care of themselves and understand that it's
Yes.
okay to rest. Being burnt out is a serious thing. It's okay to go to therapy if you have access to therapy in where you live. If you don't, then do your best to talk to someone that you trust. It doesn't have to be a best friend, or if it's your best friend, then go for it. But if it's just someone you trust, a colleague or a teacher, then talk to them. And I guarantee you, actually, I don't want to say guarantee, I 90% guarantee you that if you open up to someone like that and just say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. Just want to see how you're going. I'm struggling a bit. Would love to catch up with a coffee." They are going to say, "Are you doing okay? Hey, any way I can help, let me know. Let's catch up." And you'll have that catch up, and you know, it your friend will make you realize, oh yeah, you didn't need to be embarrassed. And anytime you talk about it, even if it's temporary, it's a good feeling afterwards. You just feel like all that weight lifts all of you. So I'm gonna finish off with they're not really rapid fire questions, because some of them can have long answers. Now, I do this with every guest and it's different each time. Every answer you give, just like the start of the show when we're talking about your favorite albums, they are fixed in time. If you change them in the future, I will go back to the
On record,
recording.
yeah.
So this is like a
This is
non-disclosure
going down in
statement. You know,
history,
this is
whatever
this
I
is
say.
written in fine print. Yeah, I'm going to take the transcript. Um, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a custom plaque. That's what I'm gonna do. So, all right. Some of these will be music related, some or art related, and also, w- I know the show's called Mental Musician, but music is. Yeah, I love that you're on the show, and I know you. I think you said you were initially a bit like, oh, yeah, you're not a musician, but you're an artist, and music is something that lives across all types of art, and same with dance, same with film, same with drawing, visual art, painting, filmmaking. It's all part of the same little world. So um, even if you're not a dancer, I think you can take a lot of good lessons that can translate to your field in art. So the first question I'll ask is so to play on the question, what would you say to your younger self to reassure them about life? I don't like that question because most young people just don't listen to anyone. They'll be like, go away, back off. So let's say you want to say something to your 56-year-old self to reassure them that you had a good life. What would you say
What
to
I would
them
say
to
to my
reassure them that you had a
50-year-old
good
self
life in and out of your art?
to reassure that they had a good life. Um, First thing that came to mind was really you thank you for trying it all. Yeah. I think yeah, just thank for trying it all. Um, Thank you for
Mm,
just continuing on down your path. Even if me right now, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what I'd be doing honestly when I'm 50 or 60. I don't know if like part of me feels maybe I would be really into film, or part of me feels maybe I took myself out of the art path. I have no idea actually, but I know that she at that point would have tried so many things, and most importantly would have kept um the important people with her along the way.
mm.
So thank you also for that. Yeah.
No, that's lovely, and I think that's if you are, I have a couple of people who are, a couple of friends who are in that age bracket, and sometimes they say that they don't necessarily regret choices, but they talk about how they tried to be a big star, and it was a bit tough, and the majority of artists don't have the success that the big stars do. But they always tell me that, it's worth trying all these things, and they're so glad that they tried those things, even though it didn't quite work out. And, now with social media,
Yeah.
the positive side, people who are 50, 60, 70 can still try and have that career. It may not, they're not going to go tour the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
300 days a year, but they can maybe make videos on YouTube, and still spend time with their family. So that's the type of success that they say that they have. And you know,
Yeah.
40 years ago, you couldn't have that. The only way was to try to be a big star. Otherwise, you go back to your day job. So okay, so I'm gonna start with the negative before we get to the positive, because of course we have to be dark. What's the worst gig you've ever done?
Oh my gosh.
And you can name and
Worst
shame. I'll track
gig.
them down. No, don't name and shame.
Um Gosh, I wouldn't say it was the actually I'm torn. It was a really good, I think the process of making it was kind of like there was some, so it was for a performance, a really big performance here in the Philippines, and then I got cast. I was just a volunteer performer actually for that because it was for a cause that I really wanted. But the process, the behind the scenes, there were some shouting involved. This was for a dance, by the way. Yeah, there was shouting involved. Like, why are you? I didn't get shouted out, but like my fellow dancers did, and they were told like, why are you not like in Filipino like you're doing such a bad job. Like literally, they're being bad mouth in rehearsals. And it's just, I know that we had a very limited time to create the dance, but I just felt like it was so unnecessary. And that was one of those moments that I really felt, oh my gosh, like some people are not meant to be like leaders. Like, what do you mean you're standing in front and you're shouting at these students and we're all just the volunteers? Like, we're not even paid. Like, why are you shouting? I think that's so unnecessary. But yeah, it was for a cause that I really liked. So I guess the worst part was the creative part, which honestly, I could go on for like a whole other hour about this. Let's just have another part again. But like I think that's something that has to change. That like the process doesn't always have to be super like toxic. You don't have to sacrifice so much. You don't have to put people in a you don't have to put people down in the process just for the sake of art. It's so unnecessary. But yeah, that's what I would say is my worst. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, people take themselves so seriously. To be fair, I was one of them. It ju but I did it coaching a cricket team, and, to be fair, the 12-year-olds were absolute little bastards, but, still, I don't like how I was I used to just shout and say, "You guys are not doing the right thing," but you're right, like, there's critical
Mm.
feedback, and I I still think that tough love is still
Yes.
it's still
Yes,
good. It's maybe not a good way, but, like, you
that's
need
true.
tough love, but when it crosses the line, becomes abuse, that's where you just gotta, like, maybe you should
Right?
step down.
Yeah, I almost wanted to go to that direction like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you projecting? Did you have unrealized dreams? Like, cause let's fix that. Join." Like, I don't know, man. Like, this is unnecessary. Yeah, like, are you starving? Like, cause we kinda are. I mean, we were at that
Yeah,
point, I think we were rehearsing for how many hours? And it's just like, or I think it was late at night, just those things. Or, do you need more volunteers to take care of like what are you carrying in your head that you're like shouting at us? But yeah, I agree. Like, I think tough love is also still important. But yeah, it's really that's just the fine line that people that teachers, coaches have to like know and realize so that you're pushing your students for towards their best potential, but not traumatizing them unnecessarily.
oh, yeah, yeah, we can leave the trauma for another day. We can do a show where we just talk about the worst of the worst, So, all right, second last question. Do you feel like you have a group of people, a community, whether or not they're involved in dance, art, or not, who are supportive when it comes to your mental health?
Yeah, actually, I think now I'm happy to say that I do
Coffee and
have
talk.
that support system because for a long time I felt like, although it was just in my head, I felt like I was such a lone wolf just trying to do the art thing on my own. But that was before I really understood. That was during the part of my life that dance was my entire life, and like what we talked about earlier, when you kind of would put yourself in a bubble and your whole world is just your art, your music, or like dance for me. But yeah, now slowly I'm able to get that support from like family, from friends, and then getting to lately I've been able to try pickleball with a few friends nearby. Yeah, I got to spend some time with my mom to watch the World Cup final. Just do things that's not like quote unquote productive, that's not necessarily gonna make me money, but is helpful to just ground me as a human being, um, and not a human
Mm.
doing.
I'm a human doing. It's is that a new species of human being, human doing, human boring? Uh, this is what you can call people who are boring. You know, you're a human boring. I don't like you. You know.
Founder, tech company, no other life. You're kind of a human being.
Yeah. Shout out to all my tech founder friends who are actually fun enough people. Anyways, so the all right, and last question. I thought about this question because it's a bit of fun, but maybe a bit of wishful thinking or hopeful thinking. But if you were given, let's just say you were
Pesos.
given $1 million, you know, or a million. What's the
Yeah,
currency in
other country.
Philippines? Rang pesos. That's one. I was gonna say rangdang. That's the
Yeah.
wrong one. um, um, yeah, so, or baht. I know that's
Mhm.
Thailand. So if you're given a million, the equivalent to $1 million, a million US, right, and you could that was given to you so you could fund a certain project to make all your wishes, your dreams in music, in dance, mental health
Actually, I
care
think I
support
would
come true. What would you
finally
do with that?
make
What would you do with that?
my um project, grief related project, come true, or like fund it, or maybe before I go that big, because it's kind of a huge project. I think that's why I'm still overwhelmed thinking about it. I'll start, or I'll have the budget eventually, so like I'll do that. That's part of it, but that's like phase 3. But first part would be just being able to do more um film, to have more productions where everybody's paid, everybody's compensated. And actually, my goal in life, like as I move towards film, is I want to have. I found an old like time capsule video that I took of myself. I make these like random vlogs that I intend to edit, but I get too lazy to edit, so I ended up just putting the whole thing out on my YouTube channel. Basically, yeah, I was telling myself my goal is to have enough budget that I don't have to cram an entire production shoot in one day for the sake of costs. I want that I have the budget to provide lodging, food, transportation for everybody involved in the production, not just the performers. I want choreographers are paid. I want music licenses covered, like just everything. Everybody's paid and we are thriving, like literally making job opportunities for everybody. um yeah, I would do more of those, really. Like, I think theme wise, eventually it'll all, most of it's really grief related. That's kind of what I have in the drafts, just as an artist. But yeah, not limited to that, open to doing more, since as you mentioned, I would have a budget equivalent to $1 million. That's a lot. I'd be able to do a lot with that. um yeah, I think just really fund fund film productions. That would be amazing. And everybody gets paid. Everyone gets paid. That's the goal.
Hmm.
Mm.
What sort of
Well, right
film would you
now,
love to make and write and direct?
the ones that are like that I have in the drafts actively are just some dance films, dance visuals that are set to music that's kind of about grief or kind of heavy, or there are a few as well that's not necessarily part of that um, grief project that I have, but they would be beautiful. I feel like eventually also I would love to be able to make short films, like as in story short films, not necessarily dance. Um, but yeah, I don't have any stories yet that I imagine for that medium. Like if I were to get actors, um, but I will let you know if I do. And I will let you know if I need music for it. Maybe I will tap you and then I will have the budget because as you mentioned, I will have the budget. Brian, I have budget for you.
I'll let you know. I'll send you the invoice. It's just $3,000 a chord. So if you want jazz, yeah, you're gonna have to have a big budget because
Right.
jazz is full of those chords, you know. And because you can make up chords in jazz and say, yeah, that's an extra one that you never heard of course. So no, I'll always have time whenever, and I'll reach out to my
Yeah.
musician friends who will happily help, and we all want to. This is the supportive side of music, you know. If
Yeah.
we all want equal opportunity and equal opportunity
Yeah.
to be paid. It's not necessarily equal pay. It's the chance to be paid and to be given that chance, you know. So I think that's something that a lot of artists will say they don't feel like they deserve to be paid. It's no, we want the chance.
Yeah.
We want to work just as hard as someone who is working in marketing or a startup founder. You know, and if we fail, that's okay. But if we have success, we want to. We think we should. Yeah, if you have success, you should be
Thank
given that payment. So, and I'll send you $1 million check for this podcast. And it's a check as well, not a transfer.
Yes. Come in, get your checks,
Yeah,
guys.
all the musicians who are underpaid, come on in to. All right, excellent. I'm gonna leave all the links to your social handles on Instagram, YouTube in the show notes. But you know, do you want to give a shout out to where people can find you and go check out Ash's reels, not just her personal account where she does her dance and singing, but also Allied Art, where she's giving a lot of local Filipino artists so many opportunities.
Yeah, thank you. So, my username is at Asha Marinella, ASHAMARINELLA for those listening in. That's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, just everywhere. And then I also have on Instagram, I do have a curated art account where I just post like different poetry, visuals, dance. It's kind of I'm still figuring out what it is, but you know, that's the process. It's amada.world, AMADA dot world. And then I also have, yeah, Allied Arts Hub. That's ALLIED Arts Hub. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Where I might share more of, just talking about things like this, giving artists platforms. Maybe I'll continue to share my events there as well. Um, but yeah, see you on the interwebs, everybody.
Yeah, the good side of the interwebs. You know, that's what Ash is doing. She's part of the good stuff. So, you know, if you're going to doom scroll the good stuff, you know, yeah, trust me, you're going to feel good and, you know,
Yes.
you're going to start wanting to dance and, you know, dance like no one's watching. All right. Thanks, Asha. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to bring you back on later in the year, maybe, or the start. Yeah, you're going to
Yes,
come back.
I would love to. Thank you so much also for having me. And thank you for continuing to make this content. It's very important work. Just talking about mental health for artists. I think it's so underrated. We need to, as artists, as much as we're performing and giving to the world, we also need to take care of our inner world. So
No, thanks, Asha. We're actually not that happy. That's why we need shows like this. No, we're all trying to be happy. We're all trying our best.